Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Indie Comics Review. This is the show where every week I review 3 indie comic books. If that's the kind of content that you find interesting, be sure to hit the like button and the subscribe button. And I not only love reading indie comics, but I have self-published several indie comics of my own. You can find them on my Alternative City shop, which has a link below this video. There you'll find, along with my comics, t-shirts, stickers, pins, and magnets, and these things that I call CBOs, or comic book originals, which are buttons, magnets, and pocket mirrors that I make from superhero comic books. These are one-of-a-kind items made from images cut directly from comic books, not photocopies, so each one is unique. Earlier this year, Sumerian Records and Films purchased Behemoth Comics, thus changing the name of the company to Sumerian Comics. I personally would have just kept the whole Behemoth name and just said Behemoth, a fully owned subsidiary of Sumerian Records, but hey, it's not my company. So, despite that, they're still making great comics, and the first 2 books today are going to be from Sumerian. So I guess it's Sky Point for Behemoth, R.I.P., and all hail Sumerian? Let's get started right away with the first book, which is from Sumerian Comics, and it's called The Purple Oblivion #1, and it is written by E. Pliskin, and it is drawn by Diego Simone, and it is on Sumerian Comics. From the creators of Heavy Metal Drummer, Jessica Knott, dominatrix, disciplinarian, fetishist, sadist, goddess, or at least that's what her business card says. Enter Peter, a young man who's just found this card and is about to let his curiosity get himself into a situation, and it begins with a cult, but ends with something much more sinister. From the company that brought you Heavy Metal Drummer comes a book that's very similar in feel to it and in style. There's this kind of a thing in a laboratory that's being created by these scientists, and they're working on, I guess, it's kind of a drug, I guess. Because Jessica Knott is, along with being a dominatrix and a mistress and all this stuff, she's also a drug dealer. So whatever this thing that they're producing in this lab is an intoxicating substance that she also sells to people. And the story opens to her like in this basically a shooting gallery where people are in there like smoking stuff and shooting stuff, and all kinds of drugs are being partaken of. And this guy walks in and she gives him a taste. The first sample is free, right? So he gets a taste of this drug, and she leaves him with her card. And it has all this information about what her services are. Not much is given other than the fact that she's trying to get people hooked on this drug, whatever it is that they're developing. And there's something about this drug that it comes from these squiggly little purple things that feed on anger and hate and fear and stuff like that. So it seems like it's all about these little squiggly things and about what Jessica is doing as far as her side gig of getting people hooked on the substance and beating the crap out of them, just as a dominatrix as well. The focus is pretty much on the art in this book. That's what I like mostly about it. Same with Heavy Metal Drummer. I hate to keep comparing the two, but they're so similar, even in size. They're just not the regular size of a normal comic book. The art is, as you can see, like here, right here, there's this like Starfire page or whatever. It looks great. It's definitely much like Heavy Metal Drummer. It has the look of a highly polished and a well-produced indie comic book that you might find in the Artist Alley at almost any show around the world. I love the work of Sumerian, so I will stick around again for the second issue to see what's happening with this whole thing, because I love indie comic books, and even if they're kind of like confusing but yet still beautiful, I'll still stick around to see where they're headed. So if you're that kind of aficionado of indie comics as I am, then you might be interested in The Purple Oblivion. I'll give it another shot to see where it goes. The next book is Sarah Lone, Book 1, and it's written by Eric Arnault and illustrated by David Morancho. And it is also on the Sumerian Comics label. A young woman with a rough past finds herself caught in a destructive spiral after the brutal murder of her father, the owner of a modest shrimp fishery. Leaving the hot nights of New Orleans, she returns to the countryside to take over the business on her own, despite the ambient hostility around her. She's arrested during her trip back home. A murder was committed in the strip club where she worked, and everything seems to point to her. Pursued by mafia killers, she passes from police handcuffs to the hands of the Secret Service. Just who is Joy Carruthers? Stage name, Sarah Lone. Sarah Lone is a completely different kind of comic book than the Purple Oblivion, and takes place back in the, I'm going to say, late 50s, maybe early 60s, when women were even more persecuted and had more misogyny against them even than they do now. There's a lot going on in this book, and it might be a little bit confusing, but it is nonetheless engaging. Sarah is estranged from her father. She's adopted the stage name Sarah Lone, where she's dancing for money down in New Orleans. We don't really know the circumstances that drove Sarah away from her father, but they will probably be explained later in subsequent books. Sarah is sought out by this detective to let her know that her father is dead, and she now owns the shrimpery. She doesn't have much interest actually in becoming an owner of a shrimp fishery. After she has kind of a falling out with the scumbag owner of the strip club, then things change. The situation happens where the strip club owner is murdered. The evidence points towards Sarah. True enough, she did assault him and take her 2 weeks or her 2 months pay that she was due, but she did not kill him. She's being falsely hunted for murder by this Secret Service person who eventually, don't want to give away too much, but he eventually starts to see her side. The character of Sarah is not really fleshed out as it could be. I hope that they're just like having this be a slow burn, because she is probably, even though she is the hero of the story, she's really not developed very well. She seems kind of one-dimensional. I know there's more. There's got to be more to her character than that, and that's maybe related to her relationship with her father and the events that force her to leave under those unpleasant circumstances. There's a lot of good things about this book. It's very long. It's very wordy. It's probably like about I want to say 40 pages long. It seems pretty close to 40 pages long for $5.99. That's probably why it's a higher price. But it's the same size as Purple Oblivion and as Heavy Metal Drummer. That same little indie size. But that being said, it makes the interior a lot smaller, which means that the words are a lot smaller, and it makes it that much more difficult to read, which is, kind of important for folks my age who, or anyone who has a seeing disability or has trouble reading, or is nearsighted as far as that goes. That's my only really nit to pick about this book. Otherwise, this is fantastic. Even though not a lot is revealed about Sarah, the story moves like a well-written movie in a cinematic kind of a way. The art's fantastic. Man, this is I can't wait to see what is done with this concept. I think it's probably going to be about at least four issues in this, 4 volumes in this series. And I'm excited to see what's going to happen with this. Sarah Lone is really great comic book making, and this is one of the reasons that I'm a Behemoth fan. Oh, did I say it again? My God, it's going to take some getting used to. But hey, Sumerian, just keep up the good work. The last book has nothing to do with Behemoth Comics or Sumerian Comics, but it is called Behold Behemoth #1. It's written by Tate Bramble and illustrated by Nick Robles, and it is on Boom Studios. Grayson's world is crumbling following his brother's sudden and mysterious death. His sleepless nights are haunted by vivid nightmares of a terrifying monster pushing him to the brink of losing both his sanity and his job as a social worker. But he's truly shaken to the core when his newest case, a young orphan girl named Ren, is found at the scene of a brutal murder, just hours after meeting Grayson for the first time. The line between nightmare and a waking life blur as Grayson soon discovers that the monster from his dreams might just be real, a mythical, ancient beast that is bringing about the end of the world with shocking connections to both him and Ren. Behold Behemoth just grabs you by the collar and just shakes you with this story. Grayson has just lost his brother. His brother was murdered. He was a police officer under mysterious circumstances that we haven't become fully aware of just yet. It opens at his funeral when he's talking to one of his brother's fellow officers. Later on, he goes on his job as a social worker, and he encounters this young girl who's living in this house full of kids, and you know that she's a very troubled kid. Grayson's brother was like a protector for him. He was kind of like a guardian. So there was something with his parents, with their parents, I should say, with their father specifically. Maybe he was abusive, and I think maybe Ren may have come from a situation just like that. So Ren and he hit it off right away because she's really troubled, much as he is. Then Grayson goes home that night, and there's a disaster of some sort, and the people in the house were all killed except for Ren. And I'm not sure if she's maybe involved with that, if she's maybe causing it, or if she's in tune with Grayson, because Grayson is also having these visions and nightmares of the end of the world. Meanwhile, through the news, like horrible things are happening. Bridges are collapsing and earthquakes are happening, and it truly does look like an apocalyptic event is occurring. At the end of the book, there's a big reveal, but even that big reveal only gives you more questions. There's definitely something going on here, whether it be premonitions or maybe even one of them are causing these horrible circumstances to occur. We don't know yet. I will absolutely be around for the subsequent issues of this book because it is just indie comic book making at its best. Behold Behemoth #1. Oh, pick this up if you have not already. This is something I think is literally earth-shattering. So that's going to be all for this Indie Comics review. Be sure to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and turn notifications on so you know when I'm making my next video. So until next time, see you guys in the funny papers. Hey, don't forget to subscribe and leave a thumbs up.